Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we'll be doing the Detroit Pistons off-season recap. If you guys haven't watched one of these before, we'll be going through and discussing every facet of the off-season so far, additions, departures, everything in between, and what was the takeaways from it. So before we start today's video, I'd like to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. Did you like this off-season? Do you think Trajan Langdon did a good job of pivoting? And what is your expectations moving forward? Now, let's get into it. And if you like this type of content, hit that like and subscribe button. It'll help out the channel a ton. Now, the Detroit Pistons, obviously the big thing was Dennis Schröder, Malik Beasley, and Mr. Tim Hardaway Jr. leaving. Three guys who were really big parts of this squad. Obviously, Simone Fontecchio was part of that trade that sent him to the Heat. I really liked him 2 years ago when he first came here, and I've always been a fan of him. He's from my father's hometown in Pescara, which, to me, or mother's hometown, but in Italy, so, there's a low-key relation right there. Tim Hardaway Jr., I thought that was a guy that was always going to be kind of on the fence if he was going to come back or not, so I was not surprised with him coming back. Then you had yourself the Dennis Schröder situation, and I felt like that was another one that was a coin flip. But for the longest time, we did think Malik Beasley was going to stay, but obviously gambling is keeping him on the sidelines. Now, from my understanding, is the reports are saying that he's confident that everything's going to be fine. Same thing with Terry Rozier. So we'll see what happens there. But what did they do to pivot to fix that? They brought in Duncan Robinson, Caris LeVert, brought back Paul Reed, and also drafted Chaz Lanier, who Chaz Lanier was probably the best shooter in this year's draft class in terms of pure shooter. This is a bona fide shooter guy. 2 years ago, before he went to Tennessee at North Florida, statistically, according to Synergy, was the best and most efficient shooter in all of college basketball. Caris LeVert, a guy who can play some backup point guard, can be a six-man, has this herky-jerky style of scoring, is going to come in and he'll provide some shooting as well. He's about a league average three-point shooter. Duncan Robinson's the deadeye. This is a deal where it really has an out next year and then is non-guaranteed in the third year. Great sign and trade. Brought back Paul Reed to give you some front court depth. And as we mentioned, Chaz Lanier, if you hadn't been watching in the summer league, he showed his three-point marksmanship. And I thought that was something that if you're watching just a tad bit, it was just a really good addition. And I really do like what he's been able to potentially, in theory, bring to them, what we saw in the summer league. So let's go ahead and look at this current roster for the Detroit Pistons of Cade Cunningham. Jaden Ivey's going to slot back that now that he's healthy. You have Ausar Thompson, who I love, Tobias Harris, Jalen Duren, Paul Reed, Isaiah Stewart, a.k.a. Beef Stew, who I think could be, if they do extend Jalen Duren, I think that opens up the road or the potential possibility for a guy like Beef Stew to be traded. They have Bobby Clintman and Toulouse Smith on a two-way, Colby Jones on a two-way, and Danish Jenkins. Danish Jenkins and Toulouse Smith were both Portsmouth guys from 2024. I got to see them there, talk to them. Marcus Sasser, second year now. No, third year now. Third year now. Last year's the second year. Year before that was first year, right? Because, 99, because Jamal Shed was after him. And Ron Holland's going into his second year. I actually really like Ron Holland. He was killing it in the summer league. Duncan Robinson, Caris LeVert, Isaiah Stewart, and Paul Reed or Chaz Lanier or Marcus Sasser. Did I say Strasser? Marcus Sasser round out the 10-man rotation right there. Biggest question outside of Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, as we saw, they were starting to coexist. I'm not going to say it was 100% perfect, but it had been better than in years past. Jaden Ivey's three-point shot was landing, and everything was looking kumbaya. But obviously, they still have some kinks that they need to work out, but there's a lot of potential there, and Jaden Ivey is a really good player. Now, they could end up, maybe looking to move off from him because they don't want to give him the money that he might want, but Jaden Ivey was always a guy who was a high pick and had a lot of potential. So, moving forward, let's talk about this payroll. What are we seeing and what do we learn? So, the payroll, $164.5 million is currently what they're at. Yeah, they have hella money available. The tax line is 187.9, so they're $23 million below that. They have $30 million of space before the first apron. They have almost over $42 million in space at the second apron, and they have a biannual exception of 5.1 still available for them, and they created a trade exception with the Dennis Schröder sign and trade that sent him to Sacramento of 14.1. Woo! Look at them to be maybe a player mid-season to maybe trade for a big fish if he comes available in terms of a wing or a forward and that probably would maybe include a Jaden Ivey using the trade exception and seeing what you could do there. But there are possibilities of getting a deal now done with assets that they have to their ability or availability. Now, why have these moves mattered? I thought Trajan Langdon, the president, the head of their basketball operations, has been patient. Okay, he's not trying to get overzealous. He's not trying to jump a couple steps. He knew what to do. They were able to pivot quickly after the Malik Beasley news. They retooled the rotation. They're taking, flyers on young guys developing like they should. And I think that's huge because they kept their cap flexibility available for the future, which is huge. So what do I think of the rest of the moves right here? The big picture takeaways. Jaden Ivey is back, and he slides right back into that starting shooting guard spot. If he can follow up and take the leap that he was showing that he was taking last year and takes a further leap, this is a guy who's a fringe all-star potentially for this team. Robinson replaces Malik Beasley's volume shooting. If they really want somebody, go out and get Garrison Matthews as a break the glass option. But I think there's enough shooting on this team, especially with Chaz Lanier as another guy. They're fine. Chaz Lanier and Robinson replace the shooting that Tim Hardaway Jr. and Mr. Malik Beasley gave you. Caris LeVert replaces Dennis Schröder and some of Mr. Tim Hardaway Jr.'s play. I think bring back Paul Reed. He worked well for them. He helps stabilize the big man rotation behind Duren and Stewart and gives them kind of like a tweener switch big that they really need. And with the Eastern Conference and the NBA being as wide open as it is, Detroit is betting on Cade Cunningham, who finished 7th in MVP voting, and the young core taking the developmental leaps that they should take, allowing this team to be a top 4 seed potentially. Now, that's where I want to hear your guys' thoughts. When you look at this whole squad, do you guys agree that they've got talent? I think they have the talent to be good defensively. I do think the biggest thing here, I'm not concerned like other people about Robinson and Caris LeVert, Chaz Lanier and company replacing Ron Holland. Like, they have all the guys that they'll need to take that said jump. I think the biggest thing here is Jalen Duren. He over the season, he became better defensively. He was always a very efficient scorer, but just like his basketball IQ developed. And that was something that really held him back over the last couple years. He just had a lot of lapses, especially on defense. And then there's just always, he was doing, like, it looked like he was stat hunting is the best way. And this year he was actually playing winning basketball, being this double-double machine who just did everything he needed. I wouldn't say he's an elite rim protector, but he's pretty solid. I just think the money's the question there, and there's what they're trying to figure out. He's definitely in this mold that's in between Jared Allen and a Daniel Gafford, I would say. He's not like as like explosive as Daniel Gafford, but he's not like as efficient and like repetitive as Jared Allen, and he's like kind of stuck in this like middle. So I think they're trying to figure that out. And then, as I said, beef stew packaged with Jaden Ivey and that trade exception can get you over $30 million. And if there is a big fish, let me just look over to my screen right here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to see who that big fish could be. Because to me, if you're looking at someone who's making about over $30 million, that's guys who are probably the top 20 salaries are like all over $40 million. So we're looking more in the range, and like obviously who's going to be healthy to improve this team. And that becomes difficult because, like, let me read you off the guys from right here who are making like 36 to 30 million. Desmond Bane, Kyrie, Rudy Gobert, Jalen Suggs, Jaren Jackson Jr., Jalen Brunson, Alperen Sengun, Chris Middleton, Jalen Green, Emmanuel Quickley, Drew Holiday, Jeremy Grant, Jordan Poole, Tyler Hero, Julius Randle, DeJounte Murray, Kristaps Porzingis, CJ McCollum, Jalen Johnson, and Isaiah Hartenstein. Which right there, looking at that, the only guy who could potentially become available in that list that would actually help them is an Emmanuel Quickley. And even then, like, that's not the guy that they would go big fish hunting for. And to me, you're then probably looking to see if somebody gets traded, maybe like a Trey Murphy, who's making $25 million, which you could maybe get over the finish line. I don't think a LaMelo Ball would interest this team. I don't think Scotty Barnes is getting traded. So as we're saying right here, when you're looking, trying to find somebody who could improve this team, there isn't an exact big fish that is available, but there could become somebody, and they might be interested in that said person. I mean, if Lauri Markkanen becomes available, I think they should be looking at Lauri Markkanen. He could actually help this team. Now, defensively, that creates questions, but if you keep Jalen Duren, it would make things work. Either way, if you made it to the end of the video right here, guys, I really do appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe button. It helps out the channel a ton. And if, like I said, if subscribe if you like this type of content. We do draft stuff. I do hoop types work and all things in between. Till next time, guys. Peace out. Cheers.